Hi, welcome to this video. We're going to be talking about my Enneagram type and Enneagram in general. Why does the Enneagram system matter? In this channel, we talk mainly about objective personality, sometimes the Myers-Briggs, aka MBTI. And even here, I listed that my type is ESFP. So these are the types that we're currently working with, but there's another major typology system that's pretty good, at least from what I'm finding, and that's the Enneagram. So I want to talk about my perspective as someone who is an expert in the objective personality system, why Enneagram might be a system worth looking at. So the overview of this video is, while I'm not an Enneagram expert, I want to talk a little bit about what is Enneagram and why it matters. And I also want to go into what is my possible Enneagram type so you can kind of use some triangulation to understand, is this stuff valuable for Habib? Is it valuable for me? Is it valuable for other people? And yeah, I was typed by the Enneagrammer team and I pretty much like what they came up with. So that'll be good to look at. And finally, we're going to wrap up with some key takeaways about the systems of Enneagram and objective personality and MBTI, and just look at some further areas of study. So if you're learning about this stuff, where are you going to go? So what is the Enneagram exactly? I'm not going to read this description, but on the enneagraminstitute.com website, they have this description that it's about 9 personality types numbered 1 through 9. And everyone has this type from birth, basically. And, or here it's saying that it emerges in childhood. You're one of these 9 types. And that's a good place to start. I think that's a basic understanding of what the Enneagram is. There's certain labels that get attached to each of these 9 types, and it's pretty good to just read them out. So the type 1 is perfectionist, 2 is giver, 3 is achiever, 4 is individualist, 5 is investigator, 6 is a skeptic or loyalist, 7 is enthusiast, 8 is a challenger, 9 is peacemaker. So this is an interesting way to kind of look at personalities. You have 9 separate types, and this is quite different from the Myers-Briggs, although there might be a little bit of a correlation. It's generally a separate system. And what's interesting is that it's possible you have both your own Myers-Briggs type and you have your own Enneagram type. And it's possible that they're both genetically determined. So in order to reason about this stuff better, so looking at the Enneagram, you actually have 3 sections. You have the gut, you have the heart, and the head. You have the head, heart, and gut. So 3 types for each of these 3 sections. You have the 1, 9, and 8 for the gut. You have the 2, 3, and 4 for the heart, and you have the 5, 6, and 7 for the head. And here I'm just writing it out, that what Enneagram is exactly is, you have these 3 sections, you're basically choosing which one you're starting with, if you believe in the tri-type, where you'll have one fix in each of these areas. You'll have one personality type for your head, your heart, and your gut, and you'll be leading with one of those, and it'll follow a certain order where you have one of them first, second, and third. So within yourself and your own personality, you're going to have one of these types first, second, and third. And you'll also have subtypes or instincts. So that's the self-preservation, social, and sexual subtypes. And then you also have wings. So like you could be a 1-wing 2 or a 1-wing 9, a 4-wing 5 or a 4-wing 3. So it kind of goes in the left-right direction or clockwise, counterclockwise way if it makes a circle. So that's what the Enneagram is exactly. And maybe there are expansions beyond this, but this is what I'm sticking with for now. Yeah, so what the Enneagram is, here are some examples. The different instincts are the social, self-preservation, sexual. The wings could be like 1-wing 2 or 1-wing 9. The tri-type can basically be like, 1-wing 2, 4-wing 5, 7-wing 8. That's just an example. But like you have one in the gut, which would be the 1. You'll have 1 in the head, which is a 7-wing 8. And you'll have 1 in the heart, which is, in this case, it's 4-wing 5. So, those will have different orderings depending on the person, right? So some people will lead with their head, some people will lead with their heart, some people will lead with their gut. But yeah, so when you get a full type, it's basically the whole tri-type with the instincts. So that's an example. At least this is my understanding, and my disclaimer is that I am not an Enneagram expert. This is the last time I'll say that. I've only been looking at it passively for the last 3 years. So I know more than people who don't know anything, but I definitely don't know as much as anyone who's an actual expert or who's been studying the system for a long time. I just know the basics, basically. How does Enneagram compare with MBTI or OPS? On this channel, we talk about objective personality a lot. So I'm going to be breaking down how Enneagram works versus objective personality. In Enneagram, you have 3 sides of a coin where you would have 2 sides in objective personality. There's a formalized wing-based structure in Enneagram, and the types are distributed throughout the head, heart, and gut, which is going to be different from Myers-Briggs, which is a bit more cognitive. So Enneagram is also quite fluid in that, because there's 9 types, an odd number, and you're working in 3s, it can kind of go, things are just interconnected. It's less, black and white than a binary system. So by the way, the word you would use for MBTI is binary, and the word you would use for Enneagram is trinary. So when you have 3 sides of a coin, that's not, you could say that's not a coin, Technically, a coin does not have to land on heads or tails. It could just land on its side. So that's something to consider. But I would say Enneagram is generally a bit more spiritual. And yeah, we'll get into that. So looking at, how does this compare with the Myers-Briggs or objective personality, which are roughly similar? You'll only have 2 sides of a coin. Are you a thinker or a feeler? Are you self above tribe, or are you tribe above self? Are you an observer or a decider? Are you a judger or perceiver? Are you a perceiver or a judger? Are you an introvert or an extrovert? You have 2 sides of a coin, but there are spectrums. So the way Myers-Briggs or objective personality makes up for it is it'll say like, hey, you're like a 90% thinker, or you're 15% intuition. You can kind of use percentages to get away with having only 2 options. You're going to be leaning a lot more in Myers-Briggs or objective personality on the cognitive style. So what's going on in the way you're thinking, the way your brain works. So that's going to be a lot more what Myers-Briggs or objective personality is about. So it feels kind of mechanical in the sense that a type will generally act out in a rigid fashion, whereas the Enneagram is a little bit more wiggly, go with the flow, fluid. It's also maybe looking at a longer span of time, where objective personality, you can, I do a lot of the typings, so you can basically read people's sentences and read people's thoughts and look at what someone is saying and determine their personality from that. So it's a very different way of looking at nature between Myers-Briggs or objective personality and Enneagram. So here we have the 9 types. So what we're going to be doing in this part of the video is we're going to be looking at which one is Habib. So this is a good time to make your guess. Maybe you've watched my other content. Maybe you have an idea of what my type is, what your type is. You can take a guess as to where you fit in this puzzle, and where do I fit in this puzzle. And there's also the instincts, the self-preservation, sexual, and social instincts. So what do you think I am? Which one do you think I have? All right, and the reveal is, here's my type. So it's a 9-wing 1, and this is from the Enneagrammer team. 9-wing 1, 3-wing 2, 6-wing 7, self-preservation, and then social. And I would say that I agree with this type. It's, something that I don't have all the information on myself. I'm not an expert, like I said. Okay, I was supposed to not say that anymore, but Yeah, so it's something where, yeah, I got this type back. I had a coaching session with Emeka, and I feel pretty good about it. And it seems to fit. It seems to answer a lot of questions, and I'll be getting to that. But yeah, here's the email that I got. That's their notation that they're using, and I'm using this notation. It's the same thing. Um, but yeah, so it is interesting. They're saying a self-typing journey, and that's a good note where we're all managing our own learning. Um, but yeah, you have to figure it out if the type makes sense for yourself. So peacemaker, this is an interesting thing because the core nine is, or the nine wing one is seen as like some kind of peacemaker. And the sin that you'd associate it with in that more religious context is sloth. So it's interesting that that's what I have. I would say that, seeing as how it took me a long time to do weekly videos, this makes a lot of sense to me because I'm definitely very much a dreamer. So here, there's a certain attribution here. So that's good. But yeah, it's very much numbing out the stress, needs alone time. It's very removed, very relaxed, wants harmony. I can definitely see this. Oh, wow. It's crazy. Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm kind of curious what these are about. Partly wants challenge and to lead, be assertive and bold, because I do kind of consider myself a little bit assertive at times, but I'm not sure exactly how that plays out. But yeah, I think this is the core type basically. So whichever one you have first. So that means I'm leading with the gut, and then I will have the heart, and then I'll have the head fix. So the second fix is three wing two. This is kind of the coaching side. So this is, I feel like, the life coaching thing, the I've achieved things, let me help you, let me show you how to do things right, or especially with the three wing two, I am leaning into the helper part where, like, for example, people are learning about typology and I want to help them learn typology or apply it to their life and do practical things with it, and there, you can see the combination with the doing aspect of me leading with the gut, combining that with the coaching side is, yeah, it just makes a lot of sense why, I'm trying to do this personality coaching type thing. But yeah, it's very charming and it can be creative, all this. Yeah, I think that fits, but that's the positive stuff. I feel like, yeah, there's definitely negatives to learn about here. So in summary, I would say the three wing two, it's kind of the life coach. It's kind of achievement oriented. It's goal oriented. And I definitely have that as part of me. So here is, I feel like, more of what I'm doing in my head, which I thought, I would be doing more of, but actually it's something I get to later. So I'm not really prioritizing this as much, but I do have this six wing seven systems building towards positive future, basically, is how I would think about it. But yeah, it's very social, talkative, you're weighing different perspectives. It says a core desire of loyalty, but really it's like you're navigating people's thoughts and you're trying to go somewhere optimistic. I think that's what I see the seven wing as. And yeah, so six wing seven, I think this is the way I see it is just, you're building out your theories. So I do have, like, for example, on this channel, I do have theory videos and things that I'm expanding my ideas on, and it's usually leaning in a positive direction. So that's kind of how I envision the six wing seven. So yeah, my type, looking at the sexual instincts or whatever the hell this is, I think it's just instincts or subtypes. I don't know what you call them, but yeah, it's self-preservation first. So that's keeper of the castle, and then social second, which is sacrifice. Okay, I don't know what that is, but basically it's about taking care of yourself. That's the self-preservation, and then social, which is, I think, caring a lot about other people. And then sexual would be kind of your one-to-one relationships, and that's what I would have last. And I think there'd probably be some intimacy issues or things like that. And yeah, that's entirely possible for me. Um, yeah, or suggestibility, that word seems to fit. But yeah, so this is my type summary. I think there's a lot of information. I think what's important to know, whether it's objective personality or Enneagram, is that there's so much density with these types where this one line of text describes a lot of things. And the more you become an expert in these personality systems, the more you understand yourself at a really deep and foundational level. And yeah, so I would say that, so originally, given that I don't have that much experience with Enneagram, my self guess was not too far off in a way. I did get the 6 wing 7 part, but I thought it was first. It's actually last. The 3 wing 2 is exactly where it is supposed to be. And the 8 wing 7, I think because I thought I was more assertive, but I'm not really. And so it's starting to make sense to me why it is 9 wing 1 instead, which is funny because it seems like almost the opposite for the it's almost the opposite for the gut fix. But yeah, SOSP, I knew I was probably SX last, and yeah, this makes sense. So it's a good opportunity to try to guess what your type is and then see what other people think. And if you have a trusted typer, see how you feel about it. And yeah, so I'm just going to be moving forward with that given type, the 9 wing 1, 3 wing 2, 6 wing 7 SPSO. But yeah, it is a self-typing journey. Just because I accepted it doesn't mean you have to accept whatever you're going through. And if someone gives you a type, you don't have to feel the pressure to just accept it straight up if it's not fitting. So for me, I looked at my life and saw that the 9 wing 1 is making a lot of sense for certain things. Like I am avoiding conflict quite a bit, and I'm not saying what needs to be said. I'm not being assertive. Yeah, and there's a lot more that I need to learn and kind of share with people about this, but yeah, I can definitely see the type is fitting. I think the life coach aspect of the 3 wing 2, I can see that pretty clearly. The 6 wing 7, I can see pretty clearly. I can see the 6 wing 7 aspect pretty clearly, but I think it's going to take some time for me to understand what the 9 wing 1 is actually doing. But at first glance and in the first few months of me knowing this type, yeah, it's already helped a lot. You are responsible and rewarded for your own learning. So even for me, like this type is only going to help me as much as I can learn about it. My takeaways on this system is that before Enneagram, I was somewhat fixated on the binary patterns, left or right, on or off, even though I was starting to see that things are happening on a spectrum. It's not left versus right in politics either, right? And so Enneagram is helping with this. And what happened is that, yeah, I was stuck in binary patterns. And so the world of psychology was starting to shrink because I was basically figuring everything out. Like when you're in the Myers-Briggs world or the objective personality world, you basically have, these 16 options or the 512 type. And, everything is just binary, and it can kind of reduce everything to very simple components when reality is just not that simple. When you're navigating life situations, it's not always so cut and dry. So what happens is that, yeah, just using objective personality alone, there is somewhat of a shallow understanding of the world. It's not necessarily the case, but especially as you're reaching out, like once you develop a bigger worldview, the original worldview you had does start to look shallow. And yeah, the growth journey seemed pretty dry, but it's still actionable, and that just goes to show that you're leaning on strategy when you're working with objective personality system. It's like, oh, are you this type or that type? I'm an ESFP. I need to act more like an INTJ or an ENTP. And so it's very strategic about what you're doing, in the, Myers-Briggs or objective personality systems. But yeah, there's less to know, more actions to take. It's way more actionable. So after Enneagram, I was significantly less fixated on binary black and white thinking or just, two ways of looking at categories. I'm now open to a vast world of exploration, which, if you know EPs, we always like to explore. But yeah, and that's actually a good thing. This is actually a good thing. And now, as far as my understanding of the world, now I have a deeper knowing. It's actually helping me go deeper than before. And the growth journey has more adventure to it. And there's a large amount of missing information, which can look like a bad thing, but it's actually a good thing. You don't want to know everything. You don't want the world to get super small and everything to be super dry and stagnant. So I'm seeing that there's more to know, but fewer actions to take. Or at least the actions are becoming more simple. And rather than leaning on strategy, now with Enneagram, I'm more so leaning on spirituality. So that is basically the difference and the transition between going from, Myers-Briggs or objective personality into integrating Enneagram into your worldview. So my takeaways on the type is that before Enneagram, I was confused why I'm a friendly number one. I was not sure why I like being a coach. I was not sure why I'm usually optimistic or why intuition over sensing or sensing over intuition. That thing was that thing was very confusing of whether I'm sensing or intuition and all that. Because, with the Enneagram type, it definitely makes a lot more sense. And specifically, I would say that because I'm such a withdrawn person, I feel more intuitive, even though in objective personality, I'm a sensing type. And yeah, I wasn't sure why I make theory videos and where they fit in my larger vision. It was, why am I always drawn to that? And why is it always so dramatic for me? Really, that's the confusing part. And yeah, people online in real life have been asking me about these things. So, there are some actually confusing aspects of personality without Enneagram. But then after it, of course, I learned why I'm a friendly number one. I understand a bit more about why I do coaching. I understand the optimistic side of me, the part of me that's more intuitive, and I see how theories are fitting into my type structure. Even though I have that core, that fix last, the 6-wing 7, I can see that that's the aspect or the part of me that's seeing the theories as important. I prioritize them much later, but they are in service of my heart and my gut. So yeah, I mean, you could totally see that on my channel. And yeah, it's very interesting. It's just very interesting to watch how it all works out. It's cool to see where the theories fit into my type structure. I'm prioritizing them much later, and they are happening only in service of my heart and my gut. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with the Enneagram type that I got. And yeah, it's going to be a continuous journey for me to integrate that knowledge into what I'm doing and what I'm sharing on this channel. But yeah, I'm seeing that, all of it matters, whether it's objective personality or the Myers-Briggs or Enneagram. You want to use these typology insights to have a better life at the end of the day, whether it's your relationships, your health, or your work and making money. This stuff is supposed to help you with improving your life and improving yourself and getting to know yourself at a deeper level. So thank you for watching, and of course, like and subscribe. But if you feel like there's something you can learn from me, I hope that you can book a coaching session. Right now, the prices are pretty affordable. They're not always going to be. So I would jump on that if you have something you're trying to figure out. It's been good to get the type back, and I'm happy to share it with everybody. I hope you got something valuable out of this, and I wish you luck on your own type journey.